Hello guys and welcome to this new video. This is going to be episode 2 of our Fusion 20 series. Today we're going to talk about the new EXR layer workflow and Cryptomatte. So let's dive right into it. For this tutorial I had to reach out again to my good buddy Zeke Faust, who was super nice and agreed to share with me this render. And by the way, this is Zeke's Instagram. I'm going to leave the link in the description. And again, go check him out, show him some love and follow him. He truly deserves it. Alright, so let's create a loader and bring in the EXR that I got from Zeke. As you can see, for some reason, Fusion decided to default to the ambient occlusion. And my understanding is that whenever the EXR has passes or parts, it will define the RGB by an alphabetical order. So if you want to change that and have the main layer to be something different, you only have to go here and change that manually. So we're going to change that to the beauty. Oh, and by the way, as always, we're working in a linear color space. Since we are here and we're looking at this channels tab, I want to point out that even though we now have a new layer system, the good old aux channels is still relevant, still exist. So I understand that it can be confusing, but keep in mind that in Fusion there still are more than a few tools that still need you to have data in the aux channels. So keep that in mind and try to not get confused by this. Alright, so right here in the top right corner of our viewer, we now have a handy list of all the available layer in the stream, and at any moment we can inspect those layers by clicking on them, and it's super useful. So let's say that I want to see the normal pass, it's there at my fingertips. So if I go back to default, I'm going to the normal viewing style of things. Goes without saying, if I create a fast noise in the layer drop down, there's nothing because this stream doesn't have any layers. And so you will see the layer list populated only if you're looking something in a viewer that has a stream of layers. There is something that I've seen popping around quite frequently, and it's also in one of Blackmagic Design's official videos for the Fusion 20 release, and it goes like this. They add a multimerge and they basically pipe everything into the multimerge. And they go in and select the input and choose the layer from this list, and then apply, the correct operation so they can reconstruct a render, for example, or whatever else. I don't really like this method, I have to be honest. I think that as a compositor you have to expose as much as possible. So to use a word that is dear to the nuke people, you have to be able to shuffle in and out layers in your stream. So the thing is that basically every tool in Fusion can shuffle out layers in the main layer or in RGBA for that matter. So let me give you an example. Let's create a brightness contrast. So if we move into the setting tab, you can see this new label here called layers, and aside the possibility to select which layer is processed, and you can process the default layer or all layers or custom layer, which means that you have to manually choose what layers you want to be affected by the brightness contrast in this case. You can also set the input layer, and that means that, for example, if I select again the mist channel will be displayed, and you can further manipulate that mist channel by the brightness contrast as you would usually do. And this is all great and super useful, but that I think could add some confusion, especially if you have a bigger comp and then the only information that you have is that here something is happening in the layers. You basically have to select the node and go into the setting to see what is going on. So I think that even though I'm sure that Blackmagic will at some point add a proper shuffle node, let's call it shuffle node, just for general understanding, but at this very moment we don't have anything like it. So for example, there is only one tool that allows you to shuffle in something. So if you want to add one layer in the stream of layers that we have, for example here, there's only one tool to my knowledge that can do that. So for example, let's say that I have these three ellipses here and I want to make masks out of it, and I want to merge those with the other layers. The only way that I have to define a new layer is by using the combiner node, and so I can have the main EXR in the background and my ellipses in the foreground, and I can select layers, and in the layer 2 name I can, for example, set up a masks new layer. And now if I look at masks, now I have this in my stream, and to prove it that it works, I can add again a brightness contrast and I can shuffle that out from here. So the combiner is the only one node to my knowledge that lets you shuffle in stuff. And since the combiner was useful in this way, at the beginning I was using the splitter node to basically shuffle out layers, because it was one of the few tools that has the layer selection in the control tab. But then I put a little bit of effort into my macro creation, and I create a little tool for myself which is called SimpleShuffle, which basically lets you select the node. Let's say again I want the mist pass. I can rename the node from the selected layer, and I can copy that layer to the aux channel. So for example, I want the mist in the Z depth. Now if I go in here, I have a Z channel. Right. So let me get rid of all of this, and let me add one more thing. With the latest beta, Blackmagic Design has added a few nodes for layer management. The first one is the layer maxer. I think it's pronounced maxer. I'm not sure. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And this one basically lets you merge two streams with layers, and you can basically merge those layers together in one single stream, and you can merge all layers or custom by selecting existing layers, by selecting them one by one. You have to have a second input to see the list. And then we have a layer remover, which basically the name says it all, pretty much self-explanatory. Then we have the layer rejects, which I have to be honest, I'm not sure what the exact use is, so I have to come back with further information that I at the moment do not have. Alright, so let me show you how fast it is to reconstruct the beauty. And let's start by again adding a simple shuffle to my stream. Let me do something like this, and I want to select my, for example, let's start with the diffuse component. Let's select the diffuse color and set the name. So I can copy this one, add a pipe router. Here I want to select the diffuse direct, set the name, copy and paste, and I can select the diffuse indirect, set the name, and as you can see I have my 3 passes. I can then add the channel booleans, and I want to add the direct and indirect together, so operation add, do nothing in the alpha, and I've done the correct operation. Then I can copy these channel booleans, connect my diffuse color, and set the operation to multiply. And I've basically successfully recreated the diffuse component. So what I can do now, I can just copy and paste these layers, and all I have to do is go back here in the layer selection and go to the next one. So in this case it's the glossy component, and I want the glossy color here, and the glossy direct, and the glossy indirect. So again, I can set the name by clicking on the button, so that I can keep everything tidy and see what is what and where. And since the operations are the same, here you can see I have my glossy component rightly recreated. So I can copy again that bunch of nodes, paste them, and move into the first shuffle and select the transmission color. And here I want the transmission direct, and here the transmission indirect. Again, I want to set the name so that I have everything tidy again. And since the operation is the same, as you can see, we have our transmission set up correctly. So I think we're missing just one more thing to recreate the beauty. And if I'm not mistaken, we're missing the emission, I think. Let me see if I'm right. Yeah, that's it. All right, so now what I have to do is to add another channel booleans and connect it to my diffuse component and add the glossy one. And I want to add and do nothing in the alpha. So just copy these channel booleans, paste it, connect the transmission, and since the operation is already set, it's good to go. We can again copy the channel booleans, paste it, and we want to also add the emission pass. And we are basically done. So as you can see, we have perfectly recreated our beauty. So super easy, super quick, and at any time you know what is what and where. You have naming, you have the operation, everything is there for you to see. This is what I mean when I say that you have to expose all your operations. Let me add another simple shuffle. And I want to add also the volume combined. And let's have a look at it. And we could also go on and add another simple shuffle and add in the rain combined. And as you can see, we have everything in place. This is a little bit too much to my taste. All right, so let me show you quickly one thing that has been added to Fusion sneakily, because I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere, unless it's me that I've lost track of it. And it's the new relight, which is the relight that comes from the color page of Resolve. And it works like this. We want to use the normals input, and as you can see, we have a normal input. So when a node has a main input and a secondary input where you can pipe in, for example, the normals in this case, what we could do is like go into the setting tab, and in the normals layer, we can just go here and select the normals. And now, as you can see, things look a little bit funky, and it's because this node for some reason wants the normals to be from 0 to 1, which is kind of weird to me. But anyway, you can normalize to those values by just clicking the rescale oversaturated. This name also is, kind of confusing to me, but anyway. And with this node, what you can do is like adding, for example, a directional light, and we can play with, for example, the glossiness. And I think this is the right moment to use the Cryptomatte. So then again, we can pipe the Cryptomatte to our main stream, which is this one, and by default, we can access the Cryptomatte data. So as you can see, this looks funky, and I kind of did it on purpose because this is something that will surely happen to someone and will confuse people. So the Cryptomatte will only work with float 32 images. So at this moment, as you can see, I'm working in float 16 because my preferences are set to float 16. So I can force this loader in the import tab to work with a 32-bit float depth. And as you can see now, the Cryptomatte works as it should. And how does Cryptomatte works? So let's look at this node very quickly because I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. You have a different set of layers that you can choose from. We have assets, materials, or objects, and they work in the same way. And basically you can go with this speaker tool and click on something that you want to select. In our case is the car, and you can output to alpha, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty much done. It's in the alpha. You can use this as a mask. But let's do another example. Let's say that you want to select maybe all those trees here. So I would have to go in and select them one by one, which is not really something that I want to do. And there's a better way to do that. So I can keep the layer to asset, and I can click this pick button here, which introduces me to this new tab where in the filter I can, for example, type in tree, and I will get this list where I can select all the trees layers, and I can hit OK, and then all the trees are selected. I can output them to alpha, and it's done. Right. I think this should be kind of enough to understand how the Cryptomatte works. But if you want a more in-depth tutorial, just let me know. All right, so go back to here. I want the car, as I was saying. I want it to output to the alpha. And I want the relight to be multiplied by the mask. So this data can be then used, for example, in a brightness contrast. And I can pipe that in my mask input, and in the mask input channel I can select luminance, and for example I can go in here and set the gain to 10 for me to add a little bit of rim light, as I was saying. Right, so What about the shader node? If you remember, in one of my previous tutorials, I've used shader node to do some relighting. Let's use the shader node then. So the shader node has two inputs, like the relight, but the relight, in the relight, one of those inputs is for the normals, while in the shader node, one is for the reflection map and one is the effect mask. So, for example, with the shader node, you have to have data in the aux channels. What we have to do now is to add another SimpleShuffle, and let me do like so a bit more tidy, and I can select the normals. I could copy them to aux, but let's do it in, the more exposed way. I want to add a channel booleans and set the operation to copy. It's okay. Then do nothing for RGBA and enable the extra channels. And in the normals, I want the red foreground, green foreground, and blue foreground. So if we look at the aux channels, we now have normals. So now we can basically use the shader node as we usually do. Right, something like this. Okay, so let's say that we want to use the volume mask. In that case, we'd have to have the position data in the aux channels. So let's do that with a SimpleShuffle. And again, I want to select the position data, and I want to add the channel booleans and do the same thing as I've done before. So in here, I want to do nothing RGBA. I want to enable the extra channels, red foreground, green foreground, and blue foreground. So now I can pipe in a volume mask. By the way, let's do this like so instead, and I can now create a volume mask as I used to. So for example, let's say that I want to select this portion of the image here, and pipe that into the shader. So now the shader, oh, by the way, I have to select mask only. So now the shader is only applying onto the selected portion of the image. All right, so I think we have covered all the basics about the layers in Fusion. Let me know if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. This is not a compositing tutorial, but I have made my own comp from this render by Zik. This is it. If you want to see how I've done it, just let me know, and I will consider making a tutorial out of this. Yeah, I think that's it. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be about deep compositing. And thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.